The Mercedes S-Class cut through the blizzard like a silver bullet through cotton. Victoria Ashford's hands gripped the leather steering wheel, her knuckles white against the black interior. The digital dashboard glowed blue in the darkness. Outside, snow fell so thick the world had disappeared. 18 degrees below zero. The radio said it was the worst storm Detroit had seen in 40 years. Victoria didn't care about records. She cared about getting home, about the board meeting tomorrow, about the quarterly report sitting in her briefcase, each page another accusation that she wasn't her father. The highway stretched empty before her. Interstate 75 northbound, usually packed with commuters even at 9 p.m. Tonight, nothing. Just white and black and the hypnotic swirl of flakes in her headlights. She pressed the brake pedal for the exit ramp. Nothing happened. She pressed harder. The pedal sank to the floor like a stone through water. The Mercedes didn't slow. The exit ramp curved sharp to the right. Victoria yanked the wheel. The car obeyed for half a second, then the laws of physics took over. Ice has no mercy. The rear end swung wide. The front end kept going straight. The world spun in a lazy circle, headlights painting arcs across the white emptiness. Then the guardrail exploded. Metal screamed, glass shattered. The car launched into the air, hung suspended for one impossible moment, then dropped. Victoria's stomach lifted. Her body jerked against the seatbelt. The airbag deployed with a bang that left her ears ringing. The impact came hard. Water, not snow, water. The car had landed in the retention pond, the one they'd built when they widened the highway 10 years ago. The one that was supposed to prevent flooding. The one that was now 20 feet deep and frozen solid on top. Except where the car had broken through. Icy water rushed in through the cracked windshield. It hit Victoria's legs like 1,000 knives. She gasped, and the sound echoed in the small space. The car was sinking, fast. The water was already at her knees. She fumbled for her seatbelt. Her fingers were already numb. The buckle wouldn't release. She yanked. Nothing. Yanked again. The water reached her waist. The cold was beyond cold. It was erasure. It was the end of sensation, the beginning of nothing. Her phone, she grabbed for it. Dead. The airbag had knocked it from the mount. It floated somewhere in the rising water, useless. The windshield. She lunged for it, tried to squeeze through the cracks. Too small. Her shoulders wouldn't fit. The water was at her chest now. Her breath came in short gasps. Panic clawed at her throat. She had 4 minutes before hypothermia set in. Maybe less. Maybe she already had less. Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Pharmaceuticals, 32 years old, graduated top of her class from Wharton, had exactly 4 minutes to live, and 67 million reasons why someone wanted her dead. The water reached her chin. Then she heard it, a voice, muffled through the metal and water and storm. Stay calm. A shadow moved outside the driver's window. A man. He pressed his face to the glass. His eyes met hers. Brown eyes, steady. No panic in them, the kind of eyes that had seen worse and survived. I'm getting you out. He disappeared. Victoria's head tilted back as the water rose. She sucked in one last breath before it covered her mouth. The cold was absolute now. She couldn't feel her body anymore, just the pressure, the weight, the darkness closing in. A sharp crack split the night. The rear window exploded inward. Glass rained down and then hands grabbed her shoulders. Strong hands, calloused. They found the seatbelt, did something she couldn't do, and suddenly she was free. The hands pulled. She moved through the water, through the shattered window, into the impossible cold of the air outside. She broke the surface, gasping. The man had her under the arms, swimming backward with powerful strokes, dragging her toward the bank. The snow fell on her face. It felt warm compared to the water. Everything felt warm compared to the water. They reached the concrete slope. He lifted her out like she weighed nothing, muscles moving with practiced efficiency under his soaked jacket, laid her on her back on the frozen ground. She couldn't stop shaking, couldn't catch her breath. Her chest hitched and spasmed. "Breathe slow," he said. His voice was calm, professional, the kind of voice that gave orders in crisis and expected them to be followed. "Conserve oxygen, you're in shock. Your body's trying to warm itself too fast. Slow breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth." She tried, failed, tried again. This time it worked. Her breathing steadied. The shaking continued, but the panic receded. She could think again. She looked up at him. A black man, maybe mid-30s, wearing a work jacket soaked through. No hat. Snow accumulated on his short hair. His posture was different from civilian men, straighter, alert. The way he scanned their surroundings, checking for threats, assessing escape routes, military bearing. When he reached to check her pulse, she saw it. A tattoo on his left forearm, partially visible below his rolled sleeve. Eagle, globe, and anchor, faded but unmistakable, Marine Corps ink, and beside it a thin white scar running from thumb to wrist. Old, clean, surgical. His eyes never left her face, monitoring her condition with an intensity that felt medical. Combat medic, maybe. Someone trained to save lives under fire. "The break line," he said quietly, pulling his sleeve down. "Someone cut it, clean, professional." Her eyes widened. He saw the recognition in them. "This wasn't an accident," he continued. "You need to be careful, very careful." Sirens in the distance, growing louder. He looked toward the sound and something changed in his face. Not fear exactly, resignation. The look of a man who had reasons to avoid police that had nothing to do with guilt. "Wait," Victoria managed through chattering teeth. "Who are you?" He stood, moved with the economy of motion that came from military training, every gesture purposeful. "Please," she said, "I need to thank you." He paused, looked back at her. There was something in his eyes now, something she couldn't read, sadness maybe, or regret. "You don't owe me anything," he said. Then he walked into the blizzard and vanished. Not running, not hiding, just moving with the tactical awareness of someone who knew how to disappear when necessary. The ambulance arrived 30 seconds later. 2 paramedics jumped out, rushed to her side. One wrapped her in thermal blankets. The other checked her vitals, shined a light in her eyes, asked her questions she barely heard. A police car pulled up behind the ambulance. An officer approached, notebook already out. "Ma'am, can you tell me what happened?" Victoria looked past him to where the man had disappeared. Nothing but falling snow and darkness, but she could still see those eyes, that tattoo, the way he'd moved through the water with strength and purpose. "Someone pulled me out," she said. "A man, he saved my life." The officer looked around. "Where is he?" "I don't know, but he said someone cut my brake line, said it wasn't an accident." The officer's expression changed, became more serious. "We'll need to examine your vehicle, and we'll need a full statement." She would spend the next week searching for the man who saved her. She had no idea he was about to walk into her office. "But first, let me take you back 12 hours. 12 hours earlier, the divided worlds." Jamal Carter's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. He didn't need it. He'd been awake for 20 minutes, staring at the ceiling of his small bedroom, thinking about bills. The heating bill, the electricity bill, the medical bills that never seemed to end even though Sarah had been gone 2 years. He rolled out of bed. The house was cold. He'd kept the thermostat at 62 to save money. Ironic, considering he fixed heating systems for a living. The prophet has no honor in his own home, or something like that. Sarah would have known the actual quote. She always knew things like that. He padded down the hallway in bare feet, stopped at Destiny's door, cracked it open. His daughter slept curled under her comforter, the pink one with unicorns she'd picked out last year, 7 years old, growing so fast it scared him. Her hair spread across the pillow in tight curls that would need braiding this morning. He'd learned how from YouTube, 10 videos before he got it right. Sarah would have laughed at him, would have kissed him anyway. He closed the door quietly, went to the kitchen. The house was small. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen and living room combined. 900 square feet in East Point, one of Detroit's inner ring suburbs. The kind of neighborhood where people mowed their lawns and swept their porches. Where nobody asked too many questions about why a man with Jamal's vocabulary and bearing fixed air conditioners instead of designing them. He made coffee, the cheap stuff from the grocery store, not the beans Sarah used to buy from the cafe on Gratiot. While it brewed, he pulled eggs from the fridge, bread from the box, butter from the door. His hands moved through the routine without thought, muscle memory. The same efficiency he'd learned in boot camp applied to breakfast. Scrambled eggs, 2 pieces of toast, orange juice. Destiny's breakfast took shape on the counter like an equation he'd solved 1,000 times. Nutrition plus speed plus what she'd actually eat equals this. Every morning, the same. At 6:15, he went back to her room. "Destiny, time to wake up, baby." She stirred, blinked. Those big brown eyes found his face and lit up. Every morning the same miracle. She was happy to see him. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, sweetheart. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Then we gotta do your hair." She groaned, "Do we have to?" "You want to go to school looking like you stuck your finger in a socket." She giggled, threw her pillow at him. He caught it with the quick reflexes that never quite left even after leaving the service, tossed it back gently, left her to get dressed. By 6:30 they were at the kitchen table. Destiny ate her eggs while Jamal worked on her hair. 4 sections, grease on the scalp, part down the middle. His fingers moved with practiced precision. The same precision he'd once used to field strip a rifle in darkness, now applied to his daughter's hair. The first month after Sarah died, he'd sent Destiny to school with her hair a mess. The look on the teacher's face had gutted him. He'd learned. YouTube University. 20 minutes every morning, but worth it to see Destiny's confidence when she looked in the mirror. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby." "Why do we have a heater but you fix rich people's air?" His hands paused for just a second, then continued braiding. "Because bills don't care about irony." "What's irony?" "It's when things are the opposite of what you'd expect. Like how the guy who fixes everyone else's heat has to keep his own house cold to afford it." Destiny considered this. "That's sad." "It's temporary." "That's what you said last year." 7 years old and already too smart. He finished the last braid, secured it with an elastic. "They're beautiful." She ran to the bathroom mirror, came back grinning. "Thanks, Daddy." "Anytime, baby. Now finish your breakfast. School in 30. While she ate, he made her lunch. Sandwich, apple, juice box, crackers, nothing fancy but nutritious, balanced. The kind of lunch Sarah would have approved of. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet, was a photo of the 3 of them, taken at Belle Isle Park 3 summers ago. Destiny was 5. Sarah was alive. They looked happy because they were happy, before the diagnosis, before the medical bills, before the world got small and hard and cold. Jamal looked at Sarah's face. She smiled out at him from the photo, frozen in that moment of joy. He'd been taking a break from Tesla then, 3 years into his job in their R&D department, working on thermal management systems for the next generation of batteries. Good money, great benefits, a future so bright he'd needed sunglasses. Then Sarah got sick. Stage 4 ovarian cancer, the kind that moves fast, the kind where every treatment is experimental and expensive. Insurance covered some, not enough. He'd sold the house, cashed out his 401k, begged Tesla for an advance on his salary. When that ran out, he took out loans. When the loans maxed out, he asked friends. When friends couldn't help anymore, he asked strangers on the internet. $400,000 to keep his wife alive for 8 more months. She died anyway. The medical bills kept coming after she was gone, collection notices, phone calls, threats of lawsuits. He couldn't go back to Tesla, couldn't face the work that reminded him of when life made sense. He took his mechanical engineering degree from MIT and became an HVAC technician. $40,000 a year instead of 90, but it paid the bills, most of them. The tattoo on his arm itched. He rubbed it absently. The eagle, globe, and anchor. Semper Fi, always faithful. He'd gotten it at 19, fresh out of boot camp at Paris Island, before MIT, before Tesla, before he became the man who chose engineering over warfare. 2 years in the Corps, infantry, 1 deployment to Afghanistan. He'd seen things, done things, learned how to survive when survival seemed impossible, learned how bodies moved in combat, how to assess threats in milliseconds, how to act without thinking when action was the only option. Then he'd come home, used the GI Bill for MIT, thought he'd left that life behind. But some training never leaves. It sits in your muscles, in your reflexes, in the way you automatically scan a room for exits, the way you wake at the slightest sound, the way you know instinctively when something is wrong. Ready, Daddy. Destiny stood by the door in her coat and backpack. He grabbed his own jacket, the one with Carter HVAC embroidered on the chest, and they headed out to his van. The drive to school took 15 minutes. Destiny chattered about her friend Zoe, about a book they were reading in class, about how Mrs. Johnson said she was the best at math. Jamal listened, made the appropriate responses. His mind wandered to today's schedule. 3 service calls, all residential, easy work, the kind he could do in his sleep. He pulled up to Lincoln Elementary, kissed Destiny on the forehead. "Love you, baby." "Love you too, Daddy." She ran toward the building, backpack bouncing. Other kids streamed in around her, parents in nicer cars than his idled at the curb. He tried not to compare, tried not to think about how Destiny's coat was from Walmart and theirs were from wherever rich people bought coats. He pulled away. The first job was in 20 minutes. Across the city, Victoria Ashford's morning looked very different. She woke at 5 a.m. in her penthouse overlooking the Detroit River. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the skyline, 40 stories up. The world spread below her like a circuit board, all lights and patterns and cold geometry. She didn't exercise, didn't eat breakfast, showered, dressed in a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and reviewed reports on her tablet while drinking black coffee. Ashford Pharmaceuticals, founded by her grandfather in 1962, built by her father into an $800 million company, now hers, for 3 months, since the heart attack that killed Richard Ashford at his desk, surrounded by research papers and family photos. The reports were bad, stock down 30%, 2 major investors threatening to pull funding, the board losing confidence, and Charles Whitmore, the CFO, circling like a shark who smelled blood. At 7 a.m., her driver brought the car around. Mercedes S-Class, midnight blue, custom leather interior. She settled into the back seat with her briefcase and didn't look up during the entire 20-minute drive to Ashford Tower. The building was glass and steel, modern, impressive. Her father had designed it himself, worked with the architects to make sure every angle reflected his vision. Science in service of humanity. That's what the inscription over the main entrance said. Victoria had never been sure if he'd meant it or if it was just good PR. She took her private elevator to the 40th floor, executive level. Her heels clicked on marble as she walked to her office. Rachel, her assistant, had coffee waiting. Black, hot, exactly how she liked it. "Morning, Ms. Ashford." "Morning, what's first?" "Board meeting at 8. Charles wants to discuss restructuring." Of course he did. Charles always wanted to discuss restructuring, which meant cutting budgets, which meant killing her father's projects, the ones that didn't make money fast enough, the ones that actually helped people. Victoria set her briefcase down, looked out her window at the city below. Somewhere down there, people were living lives that didn't revolve around quarterly earnings and shareholder value. She wondered what that felt like. "Tell Charles I'll be there at 8:15. "But the meeting starts at 8. "I know." Let him wait, let them all wait. She was CEO now. They could accommodate her schedule. At 8:15 exactly, Victoria walked into the boardroom. 12 people sat around the table, all men except for Patricia Morrison, who ran HR and never spoke during meetings. Charles sat at the far end, opposite the head of the table, her father's old seat, the one she now occupied. She didn't apologize for being late, just sat down and opened her laptop. "Let's begin." Charles smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you for joining us, Victoria. We were just discussing the third quarter results." "I've read them." "Then you know we're down 18% year over year." "I know we're investing in research that will pay off in 3 to 5 years." "Your father's research," Charles said. His tone was careful, respectful. The words themselves were not. "His sentimental projects, the pediatric cancer drug that's hemorrhaging money, the Alzheimer's treatment that won't see profit for a decade. We need to make hard decisions." Victoria met his eyes. "My father built this company on research and development. We're not becoming a generic drug manufacturer." "With all due respect, perhaps if you spent less time mourning and more time leading, we wouldn't be having this conversation." The room went silent. Patricia looked at her hands. The other board members suddenly found their laptops fascinating. Victoria's face showed nothing, but inside, something cold and hard settled in her chest. "This meeting is over." She stood, walked out, left them sitting there in shocked silence. Back in her office, she stood at the window and breathed. Slow, controlled, like her therapist taught her, in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Charles's words echoed in her head. Mourning, as if grief had an expiration date, as if 3 months was long enough to get over losing the only parent she'd ever known. Her phone buzzed. "Rachel." "Ms. Ashford, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The heating system on the executive floor just failed. It's 48 degrees in the conference room. The HVAC company says they can have someone here in 2 hours, but you have the investor call in 30 minutes. Victoria closed her eyes. Of course, because today wasn't bad enough already. "Fine, tell them to send someone immediately. Offer triple the usual rate." "Yes, ma'am." She hung up, looked at her reflection in the dark window. Her father looked back at her. Same eyes, same determined, set to the jaw. He'd never let the board intimidate him, never let money be the only metric of success. But he was gone, and she was alone. Somewhere across the city, Jamal Carter's phone rang. Mrs. Chen, the dispatcher at a Plus HVAC service. "Jamal, I've got an emergency call. Corporate job downtown." He was halfway through fixing a furnace in a suburban basement, took the phone away from his ear, looked at it, put it back. "I don't do corporate, Mrs. Chen, you know that." "I know, but they're offering triple rate, and they specifically asked for our best tech." "Send Rodriguez." "Rodriguez is in Dearborn until noon. They need someone now." "Come on, Jamal. It's one job. $300 for probably 90 minutes of work. You telling me you don't need $300? He didn't answer. Of course he needed $300. He always needed $300. "What's the address?" "Ashford Tower, executive floor, heating system failure." Ashford, he knew that name. Ashford Pharmaceuticals, one of the big ones, the kind of company that made more money in a day than he'd see in a lifetime. "Fine, I'll finish this job and head over. 45 minutes. "They want someone now." 45 minutes or send Rodriguez." Mrs. Chen sighed. "Fine, I'll tell them, but Jamal, be nice. These are important people." He almost laughed. Important people. As if rich people were more important than the single mom in East Point whose furnace he was currently fixing. The one who'd bundled her kids in sleeping bags last night because she couldn't afford the repair. But $300 was $300. He finished the job, packed his tools with the automatic efficiency of military training, everything in its place, everything accessible, drove across the city to downtown Detroit. Ashford Tower rose above the skyline like a glass monument to money. Jamal parked in the service area behind the building, grabbed his tool kit from the van, walked to the service entrance with the bearing of someone who'd walked into far more dangerous places than corporate lobbies. The security guard barely looked at him. "HVAC." "Yeah." "Service elevator, 40th floor, and don't touch anything expensive." Jamal nodded, didn't say what he was thinking, didn't say anything at all, just took the service elevator up. The 40th floor was all marble and glass, and the kind of quiet that money buys. His boots squeaked on the polished floor. A woman in an expensive dress stood near the reception desk. "You're the technician." "Yes, ma'am, Jamal Carter." "Rachel Lynn, Ms. Ashford's assistant, this way." She led him down a hallway. Every wall was glass. Every office looked like a magazine spread. He saw people in suits having meetings, typing on computers, talking on phones. Nobody looked up as he passed. He automatically cataloged exits, fire escapes, stairwells, old habits. Rachel stopped at a door labeled climate control. "The heating system's in here. Temperature on the executive level is 48 degrees. Several board members are threatening to leave." "How tragic," Jamal murmured. Rachel's lips twitched, almost a smile. "I'll be at the desk if you need anything." She left him alone with the machinery. Jamal opened his tool kit, knelt beside the main unit. The system was high-end, commercial grade, the kind that cost more than his van. He ran his hands over the metal, feeling for temperature variations, checked the pressure gauges, listened to the compressor with the kind of attention he'd once used to listen for movement in hostile territory. Everything looked fine, but something was wrong. He pulled out his frequency analyzer, the device MIT had given him when he graduated, the one piece of his old life he couldn't bring himself to sell. He held it near the compressor. The reading made him frown. The harmonic frequency was off, not by much, 0.03 hertz. Most techs wouldn't notice, wouldn't know what it meant even if they did notice. But Jamal wasn't most techs. He had degrees from MIT and training from the Marine Corps. He noticed everything. Someone had miscalibrated the system, deliberately, precisely enough that it would fail at a specific time, which meant this wasn't equipment failure. It was sabotage. He stood, walked back to Rachel's desk with the controlled movements of someone assessing a threat. Is there a blueprint of this building's HVAC system? Why? I need to see the design specs. Rachel hesitated. That's proprietary information. Your system was sabotaged. Someone with engineering knowledge accessed it and altered the harmonic frequency of your compressor. If you want heat, I need to see the original design to recalibrate it correctly. Rachel stared at him, sabotaged. Yes, ma'am. She picked up her phone, spoke quietly, hung up. Ms. Ashford wants to speak with you. Her office is at the end of the hall. Jamal followed her directions. The office at the end of the hall had floor-to-ceiling windows and a view that probably cost extra. A woman stood with her back to him, looking out at the city. Ms. Ashford. She turned. For a second, neither of them spoke. Victoria saw a black man in his mid-30s wearing a work jacket and carrying a tool kit, but something about his bearing was different. Military posture, alert eyes that scanned the room automatically, cataloging details. Jamal saw a white woman in an expensive suit with tired eyes and perfect posture. You're the technician. Yes, ma'am, Jamal Carter. My assistant said someone sabotaged our heating system. Yes, ma'am. The compressor's harmonic frequency was deliberately miscalibrated. Whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing. This is sophisticated work. Victoria crossed her arms. That's very specific for a technician. Jamal met her eyes, didn't look away. The same direct eye contact he'd used with officers who tried to intimidate him. I know what I'm looking at. Clearly, she studied him. He stood still under her examination, comfortable with silence. Can you fix it? If I have access to the original design specs, I need to see the baseline frequency and recalibrate to match. How long? 2 hours if I work alone. 90 minutes if someone who knows the building helps me. Victoria glanced at her watch. I have an investor call in 20 minutes. Fix it in 90 minutes and I'll double your rate. I don't need double, I need the blueprints. Something shifted in her face. Surprise maybe, or respect. Rachel will get them for you. Anything else? Just time and quiet. She nodded, turned back to the window. Jamal left, found Rachel already pulling up files on her computer. She printed the blueprints, handed them over. Coffee, she asked. Please, black. She smiled. You and Ms. Ashford, everyone else drowns it in cream and sugar. While Rachel got coffee, Jamal spread the blueprints on a conference table. His eyes moved over the lines and numbers, seeing patterns, understanding systems. This was what he'd trained for, what he was good at, before everything went wrong. The building's HVAC was beautiful, elegant, efficient. Whoever designed it understood thermodynamics and fluid mechanics and the subtle art of moving air without anyone noticing. The kind of design that took years to master. He found the problem in 3 minutes, saw how to fix it in 2 more. Rachel returned with coffee, saw him staring at the blueprints with the intensity of someone reading poetry. You really love this stuff, don't you? He looked up, smiled slightly. I used to. What changed? Life. She didn't push, just left him to his work. Jamal returned to the climate control room. The repair took exactly what he'd predicted, 90 minutes of precise recalibration. His hands moved with the muscle memory of 10,000 similar adjustments. MIT trained, Tesla refined, Marine Corps disciplined. now applied to fixing what someone else had broken. When he finished, warm air flowed through the vents. The temperature gauge climbed from 48 to 68 in 6 minutes. He packed his tools, went back to Victoria's office. She was on the phone, saw him, held up one finger. "I understand your concerns, Mark, but pulling funding now would be short-sighted. The preliminary trials show promise. Give us 6 more months." She listened. Her jaw tightened. "I see. Well, thank you for your time." She hung up, sat back in her chair, closed her eyes. "Bad news." She opened her eyes. "An investor just pulled $3 million in funding from our pediatric cancer drug research." "Why?" "Not profitable enough. Apparently dying children don't generate adequate returns." The bitterness in her voice surprised him, made her seem human instead of corporate. "The EV to EBITDA ratio on that drug is negative now," Jamal heard himself say. "But projected ROI in year 3 is 340%. Your investor's math is wrong, or he's lying." Victoria sat up slowly. "How do you know that?" Jamal realized his mistake, but it was too late. "I read a lot." "You read pharmaceutical investment analysis." "I read everything." She stood, walked around her desk, studied him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "You're not just an HVAC technician." "I fix heating and cooling systems. That's what you needed. That's what I did." "Who are you really, Mr. Carter?" "Someone who needs to pick up his daughter from school in 40 minutes." He turned to leave. Victoria's voice stopped him. "Wait." He paused, didn't turn around. "Thank you for fixing the system. Rachel will handle payment." "Yes, ma'am." He left, took the service elevator down, walked to his van. The whole encounter had been strange, uncomfortable, like wearing clothes that didn't fit anymore. He'd spent 2 years hiding what he used to be, building walls between his MIT past and his HVAC present. This woman had seen through those walls in 90 minutes. He drove to Destiny's school, sat in the pickup line with the other parents. When she ran out, backpack bouncing, smiling, the discomfort faded. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, baby, good day." "Great day. I got 100 on my math test." "That's my girl." They drove home. Destiny talked about fractions and recess and how Zoe had brought cookies that her mom made from scratch. Jamal listened, made dinner, helped with homework, did bath time and bedtime and all the small rituals that made up their life. After Destiny fell asleep, he sat in his living room and stared at nothing. The photo on the fridge, Sarah's smile, the life they'd planned that never happened. He thought about Victoria Ashford in her glass tower, thought about pediatric cancer drugs that didn't make enough profit, thought about systems that were sabotaged and investors who were wrong and a world that valued money over children. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Carter, this is Victoria Ashford. Rachel gave me your contact information. I hope that's appropriate. I wanted to thank you again for your work today. Also, I meant what I said about the investor's math. How did you know those numbers?" He stared at the text, shouldn't respond, should delete it and forget the whole strange day. He responded anyway. "I used to do that kind of work before." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Before what?" "Before life got complicated." The dots again, then. "I understand complicated. Thank you for today, Mr. Carter. I hope our paths cross again." He didn't respond to that, just set the phone down and went to bed. He had no idea their paths would cross again in less than 12 hours. Or that when they did, it would be with her car sinking into a frozen pond and 4 minutes left to live. But that's how life works sometimes. You save someone fixing their air conditioning, then you save them from drowning, then your whole world changes. In her penthouse across the city, Victoria stood at her window and looked at the Detroit skyline. Her father had loved this view, said it reminded him that the city was alive, always changing, always fighting to be better than it was. She missed him. 3 months and the grief hadn't lessened, just changed shape, became something she carried instead of something that carried her. Her phone rang, Charles Whitmore. She almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail, but CEO meant answering the phone even when you didn't want to. Charles. Victoria, we need to talk about today's board meeting. There's nothing to talk about. I stand by my decisions. Even if those decisions are killing the company. The company is fine. The company is hemorrhaging money on your father's vanity projects. You're letting sentiment cloud your judgment. Her grip on the phone tightened. My father built this company from nothing. Show some respect. I respected Richard, but he's gone, and you're not him. The words hit harder than they should have, mostly because they were true. Good night, Charles. She hung up before he could respond. Her hands were shaking. She hated that he could get under her skin so easily, hated that the board doubted her, hated that she doubted herself. She poured a glass of wine, stood at the window. The city glittered below, indifferent to her problems. Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, a text from her head of security. Ms. Ashford, I'm seeing some unusual activity on the building's security logs. Someone accessed the climate control system last week. Different login than maintenance. Recommend we investigate. Her stomach dropped. The sabotaged HVAC, the technician who'd known too much. She typed back. Pull all security footage from the past 2 weeks. Focus on climate control access points. Report to me first thing tomorrow. She set the phone down, looked at her reflection in the dark glass. Something was wrong. She could feel it. The same instinct that had told her the board meeting felt off, that Charles's tone had been just slightly wrong, that the investor's decision had come too fast. Someone was moving against her. She finished her wine, checked her watch, 8:40 p.m., late enough that the roads would be clear. She gathered her briefcase, put on her coat, decided to drive herself instead of having her driver pick her up. She needed space, needed the quiet of her car and the mindless task of driving. She took the elevator to the parking garage, got in her Mercedes, started the engine. Across the garage, hidden in shadow, a man watched her leave. He pulled out his phone, sent a text to a different number. She's mobile, heading north on 75. The response came immediately. Good, the brakes will fail at the off-ramp. Make sure there are no witnesses. The man put his phone away, started his own car, followed at a distance. Victoria drove through the city, unaware of the car behind her, unaware that her brake lines had been cut that morning while she was in her board meeting, unaware that someone had calculated exactly when and where they would fail. The snow started falling at 8:50, light at first, then heavier. By 9 p.m. it was a blizzard. The radio called it historic, a storm for the record books. Victoria didn't care about records. She just wanted to get home. The highway stretched empty before her. She pressed the brake pedal for the exit ramp. Nothing happened. And the story came full circle. Jamal Carter was driving home from his last service call when he saw it. The Mercedes, the way it was moving, too fast for the conditions, the brake lights that didn't come on when they should have. He knew before it happened, knew from the angle and the speed, and the patch of ice that anyone with engineering training would have recognized. Knew from instincts honed in combat zones where reading movement meant survival. The car hit the guardrail, launched into the air, disappeared over the edge. Jamal didn't think, just acted, the way he'd been trained: assess, react, execute. He pulled over, grabbed his emergency kit from the back, the same kit he'd carried in Afghanistan: flashlight, first aid, tools, ran through the snow to the guardrail. Below the pond, the car breaking through the ice, already half submerged. He didn't hesitate, didn't calculate odds or consider consequences, just moved, ran down the embankment, hit the ice at full speed. It cracked under his weight but held. He reached the car as water poured through the windshield. Saw her inside, Victoria Ashford, the woman from this afternoon, trapped, drowning. He grabbed his emergency hammer from the kit, shattered the rear window with one precise strike, reached in, found the seat belt. His combat knife cut through it in one motion, pulled her out. The ice groaned, started breaking. He wrapped one arm around her unconscious body, used the other to swim, strong strokes, Marine Corps survival training, cold water immersion drills. This was colder, but he'd trained for worse. They reached the shore. He laid her on the concrete, checked her breathing, weak, checked her pulse, thready, hypothermia setting in fast. He did what he'd been trained to do, what he'd done for wounded Marines in Afghanistan: tilted her head back, cleared her airway, started rescue breathing, checked for heartbeat, started compressions. 30 and 2, the rhythm automatic. She coughed, water came up, she gasped, breathing on her own. He rolled her to her side, recovery position, checked the car one more time, saw the brake line hanging loose under the chassis, saw the clean cut, professional work. Someone had tried to murder Victoria Ashford. Sirens in the distance. He looked at the approaching lights, thought about the warrant, the arrest from 8 years ago, the protest at MIT that had turned violent. Not his fault, but try proving that to Detroit PD at midnight in a blizzard. He looked at Victoria, unconscious but breathing, safe. That was what mattered. He stood, checked the area one more time, made sure she was visible from the road. Then he walked back to his van. Didn't run, didn't rush, just moved with purpose, the way he'd been trained. He drove away. His hands were steady on the wheel, his breath was calm, but inside his mind raced. The brake lines, cut clean, professional. Someone had tried to kill Victoria Ashford. And now he was involved. He thought about Destiny at home with Mrs. Rodriguez, the neighbor who watched her when he worked late. Thought about how his daughter's safety was the only thing that mattered. Thought about how getting involved in corporate murder plots was the opposite of keeping his daughter safe. But he also thought about Victoria's eyes as the water rose, about the pediatric cancer drug that didn't make enough money, about Richard Ashford who'd built a company on research and the board members who wanted to dismantle his legacy. He thought about the woman who'd looked at him like he mattered instead of like he was just the help. When he got home, Mrs. Rodriguez met him at the door. "Mijo, you're soaked. What happened?" "Broke down by the highway, had to walk to find help. Is Destiny asleep?" "Like an angel. I checked on her 10 minutes ago." "Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez." She left. Jamal locked the door behind her, stood in his dark living room and dripped on the floor. He should forget about it, should focus on his own life, his own daughter, his own problems. But he kept seeing Victoria's face in the water, kept hearing her voice from this afternoon. Apparently dying children don't generate adequate returns. She wasn't like the others, Wasn't like Charles Whitmore with his restructuring plans. She'd fought for the cancer drug. She'd cared. And someone had tried to kill her for it. Jamal changed into dry clothes, checked on Destiny. She slept peacefully, unaware that her father had just saved a woman's life, unaware that he was now connected to something dangerous. He went to his bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed. The tattoo on his arm seemed to ache. Eagle, globe, and anchor. Semper Fidelis, always faithful. To what, to who? To the men who died beside him in Afghanistan. They were gone. To Sarah, she was gone too. To Destiny, always. But maybe also to the oath he'd taken, to protect, to serve, to do what was right even when it was hard. He'd left the Marine Corps, but some things never leave you. Tomorrow he would go to work, fix air conditioners, pick up his daughter from school, make dinner, read bedtime stories, live the small, safe life he'd built from the ruins of his bigger one. But tonight, just for tonight, he let himself remember what it felt like to act when action mattered, to save a life, to be the man he'd trained to be a Marine again, even if just for 5 minutes in a frozen pond. Victoria Ashford stood in her penthouse and stared at a business card. White cardstock, black letters, simple, direct. Carter HVAC, we fix what's broken. Below that, a phone number, an address in East Point, and a name she couldn't forget. Jamal Carter. The man who'd saved her life. The man who'd disappeared into a blizzard before she could thank him. The man the police had been searching for without success for 7 days. 7 days. A week of physical therapy for her bruised ribs. A week of nightmares about drowning. A week of police interviews and security briefings and board meetings where Charles Whitmore looked at her like she was already dead. The hospital had found the card in her coat pocket. She didn't remember Jamal putting it there. Didn't remember anything after he pulled her from the car except the feeling of safety, of being held by someone strong enough to carry her weight. The police report sat on her desk. Brake lines severed. Professional job. Attempted murder. They'd assigned a detective. A black woman named Sandra Mitchell who asked too many questions and believed too few answers. Do you have enemies, Ms. Ashford? I run a pharmaceutical company. I have competitors. Competitors who'd kill you. Victoria hadn't answered that, because the answer was probably yes. She'd spent the week having security sweep her office, her car, her home. They'd found 3 more sabotage attempts, a gas leak in her penthouse, malware on her computer, a suspicious package delivered to her assistant. Someone wanted her dead, and they weren't giving up. She picked up her phone, put it down, picked it up again. What would she say? Thank you for saving my life. Why were you there that night? Who are you really? All of those questions, none of them simple. She dialed the number before she could talk herself out of it. It rang 3 times, then a man's voice, careful, guarded. Carter HVAC. Mr. Carter, this is Victoria Ashford. Silence, she could hear him breathing, could almost feel him deciding whether to hang up. How did you get this number? You left your card in my coat, the night of the accident. More silence. I wanted to thank you, she continued, for saving my life. You don't need to thank me. I do, and I need to talk to you, not on the phone, in person. I don't think that's a good idea. Someone tried to kill me, Mr. Carter. You knew about it before anyone else. You saw the brake lines. I need to understand why you were there, how you knew. She heard him exhale, heard something in the background, a child's voice, high and sweet. Daddy, can I have juice? 1 second, baby, he said, voice softer, then back to her. Ms. Ashford, you should talk to the police. The police are investigating, but you're the one who pulled me from that car. You're the one who knew it wasn't an accident. How do you know that? Because you told me, right before you disappeared. Someone cut your brake line, this wasn't an accident. Then you left. Why? Another pause, longer this time. I have my reasons. I need better than that. No, you don't. I saved your life. That's all you need to know. Mr. Carter, someone has tried to kill me 3 more times this week. Gas leak. Computer virus. A package that bomb squad says had enough C4 to level my office. This isn't going away, and I think you know more than you're telling me. The silence stretched. She could hear him thinking. Where do you want to meet? My penthouse, tonight 8 p.m. I'll send a car. I have a daughter. I can't just leave her. The words came out before she'd thought them through. Bring her. Now the silence felt different, surprised. You want me to bring my 7-year-old to a meeting about attempted murder? I want you to feel safe. If that means bringing your daughter, bring her. My assistant has children. She can watch her while we talk. She could feel him weighing options, calculating risks. 1 hour, he finally said. I'll drive myself, send me the address. He hung up before she could respond. Victoria set the phone down. Her hands were steady, her heart was not. She just invited a stranger to her home, a man she barely knew, a man who'd saved her life but might also have his own agenda, a man who made her feel off balance in a way she didn't understand. She texted Rachel, asked her to come in tonight, explained there'd be a little girl who needed watching. Rachel didn't ask questions, just said she'd be there at 7:30. Victoria looked around her penthouse. 15,000 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows, art worth more than most houses, furniture chosen by designers who charged by the hour. Cold, empty, exactly like her life. She thought about Jamal Carter's daughter asking for juice, thought about the warmth in his voice when he'd answered her, thought about how his small house in East Point probably had more life in it than this entire building. At 7:45, her doorbell rang. She checked the security camera, saw Jamal standing in the hallway holding his daughter's hand. The little girl wore a purple coat and looked around with wide eyes. 3 men in dark suits flanked them at a respectful distance. Her new security team, ex-Secret Service, the best money could buy. Victoria opened the door. Mr. Carter. Ms. Ashford. He stepped inside carefully, wary, his daughter pressed close to his side. His eyes took in the security detail with the automatic assessment of someone who'd had similar training. And you must be Destiny, Victoria said, kneeling to the girl's level. Destiny nodded, whispered, You're the pretty sad lady from Daddy's work. Victoria blinked. I'm sorry. Daddy said you were sad inside, but you're very pretty outside. Jamal closed his eyes. Destiny, we talked about filters. It's all right, Victoria said. She looked at the little girl, really looked. Saw intelligence in those eyes, saw something old beyond her years. You're very perceptive. That means smart, right? Very smart. Rachel appeared from the kitchen. Hi, you must be Destiny. I'm Rachel. I have juice boxes and cookies in the other room. Want to come help me pick a movie? Destiny looked up at Jamal. He nodded. Be good, baby. Always am, Daddy. She took Rachel's hand and disappeared into the media room. Victoria and Jamal stood in the entrance. The space between them felt charged, heavy with things unsaid. Thank you for coming. You didn't give me much choice. You could have said no. Could I? He met her eyes. Someone tried to kill you. Multiple times. You think I could just ignore that? Most people would. I'm not most people. No, he wasn't. Victoria gestured to the living room. They sat in chairs across from each other, a glass coffee table between them like a negotiating table. Tell me what you saw, Victoria said. The night of the crash. Jamal leaned back. His hands rested on his knees, relaxed, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. I was driving home from a service call, saw your car on the highway. You were going too fast for the conditions. No brake lights when there should have been. I knew something was wrong. How did you know it was my car? Same Mercedes from that afternoon. Same license plate. I noticed details. Why were you on that highway? East Point is the opposite direction from downtown. A small smile. You've been researching me. You saved my life. Of course I researched you. The service call was in Bloomfield Hills. I was taking the long way home, avoiding traffic. Victoria studied his face, looking for lies, found none. You said the brake lines were cut. How did you know? After I pulled you out, I looked. The cuts were clean, precise. Someone with tools and knowledge did that. Why didn't you wait for the police? His expression changed, closed off. I have my reasons. I need better than that. No, you don't. His voice was firm but not angry. I saved your life. That's all you need to know about me. Except you're not just an HVAC technician. You knew about my investor's math. You identified harmonic frequency sabotage. You calculated brake line failure like an engineer. So who are you really, Jamal Carter? He stood, walked to her window, looked out at the city the same way she did when she needed to think. I went to MIT, he said quietly. Mechanical engineering, graduated summa cum laude. Before that I was a Marine, infantry, 2 years, 1 deployment. I got out, used the GI Bill for school, worked at Tesla's R&D department after graduation. Thermal management systems, made $90,000 a year, had a future. He turned to face her. Then my wife got sick, stage 4 ovarian cancer. The treatments weren't covered. I sold everything, cashed out my retirement, took out loans. $400,000, it wasn't enough. She died anyway. I couldn't go back to that work. Couldn't look at engineering the same way. So I became what I am now. A man who fixes air conditioners and raises his daughter. The raw honesty in his voice hit her like a physical thing. I'm sorry, she said, and meant it. Don't be, I'm not. He sat back down. Sarah gave me destiny. That's worth more than any career. Victoria looked at her hands, thought about her own father, the company he'd built, the legacy he'd left her. My father died 3 months ago, she said. Heart attack at his desk, surrounded by work he loved. She looked up. Except it wasn't a heart attack, was it? Jamal leaned forward. What makes you say that? Because someone sabotaged our HVAC system the day you fixed it. Someone cut my brake lines. Someone has tried to kill me 4 times in the past week. Someone is systematically attacking me and my company. She paused. I think they killed my father too. The air in the room changed, became denser, more serious. Why? I don't know, that's what I need help figuring out. I have security now, ex-Secret Service, the best, but they can protect my body. They can't help me understand the why, the who, the how. She stood, walked to where he sat, looked down at him. I need someone who sees what others miss. Someone who understands systems and sabotage and frequencies that are off by 0.03 hertz. Someone who can think like an engineer and act like. She gestured at him. Like whatever you were in the Marines. His jaw tightened. Infantry, nothing special. You pulled me from a sinking car in a frozen lake. That's pretty special. That's training. Anyone with my background could have done it. But you did it. You were there. You saved me. She sat down across from him again. Help me find who's trying to destroy everything my father built. I can't put destiny at risk. Then let me protect you both. I have resources, security, safe houses, whatever you need. I don't need your money. Then what do you need? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. Fund the pediatric cancer drug. The one your investor killed. Put it back in production. Full funding. No matter what the board says. Of all the things he could have asked for. That drug won't be profitable for years. I don't care about profit. I care about dying kids getting a chance. Like my wife should have gotten a chance. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest. Something hard and protective she'd built after her father died. All right, deal. I'll fund the cancer drug. You help me find out who killed my father. They shook hands. His grip was firm, calloused, real. When do we start? Tomorrow. I'll send a car for you and Destiny after school. We'll start going through my father's files. He nodded, called for Destiny. The little girl came running, Rachel behind her. Miss Tara, you have a really big TV. You can come watch it anytime, sweetheart. They left. Victoria stood at her window and watched Jamal's van pull out of the parking garage, her security team following at a discreet distance. Watched until the taillights disappeared into traffic. Rachel came to stand beside her. That's an interesting man. He saved my life. I know, but that's not why you invited him here. Victoria glanced at her assistant, her friend. Why then? Because he looked at you like you were a person, not a CEO, not a billionaire, just a person who needed help, Rachel smiled. When was the last time someone did that? Victoria didn't answer, because the answer was never. Over the next 2 weeks, Jamal came to the penthouse every evening. Destiny came with him. Rachel prepared activities, coloring books, puzzles, games. Destiny's eyes went wide every time. Is this all for me? All for you, honey. Jamal and Victoria worked in her father's office, going through files, records, research papers, building a timeline of the 3 months before Richard died. They found patterns, meetings canceled at the last minute, research budgets slashed without explanation, key employees leaving suddenly, all the small signs of a company under attack from within. Someone was positioning themselves, Jamal said one night, looking at a spreadsheet, moving pieces, getting ready for something. For my father's death. Maybe, or maybe his death was the opportunity, the thing they'd been waiting for. On the 10th day, they found it. A folder marked personal, hidden in a drawer Victoria had assumed was locked. Inside a flash drive. Jamal plugged it in. Files appeared, audio files, dated 2 weeks before Richard's death. Victoria clicked the first one. Her father's voice filled the room. If anyone is listening to this, something has happened to me. I've discovered Charles Whitmore has been embezzling funds. $67 million over 3 years, siphoned through shell companies. But that's not the worst of it. Victoria gripped the desk. Jamal stood silent beside her. He's planning to sell the Alzheimer's formula to Gentech Pharma. Marcus Duval, their CEO, has offered him $200 million for the research. Charles will destroy Ashford Pharmaceuticals from the inside, walk away rich, and Gentech will have a drug worth billions. Richard's voice caught, continued. Victoria, if you're hearing this, trust no one on the board. They're either complicit or blind. There was a young engineer I mentored years ago, Brilliant kid from Detroit. Jamal Carter. Find him. He'll help you. He's the only one who understood what we were trying to build here. Science in service of humanity, not just profit. The recording ended. Victoria turned to Jamal, tears on her face. He was talking about you 10 years ago. You interned here. Jamal nodded slowly. One summer, between junior and senior year at MIT, your father changed my life, taught me that engineering could heal, not just build. I forgot that. After Sarah died, I forgot everything he taught me. He never forgot you. They stood in the quiet office, a dead man's voice still echoing in the air, instructions from beyond the grave. Victoria wiped her eyes, steadied herself. We need to copy this, get it to the authorities. Not yet. If Charles has board members in his pocket, he has connections everywhere. Police, judges, we go public too soon, evidence disappears, people disappear. Then what do? We gather more proof, build a case so solid he can't buy his way out. Financial records, communication logs, everything. Then we expose him publicly, where he can't hide. Over the next week, they built their case. Jamal traced the shell companies Charles had used, found the money trail. $67 million spread across 15 different accounts. Victoria accessed her father's research files, found communication between Charles and Marcus Duval, emails discussing the Alzheimer's drug, offers of payment, timelines for transfer. They worked late into the nights, Destiny asleep in the guest room, Rachel staying to watch her, Victoria and Jamal side by side at computers, sharing coffee, sharing silence. On the 18th night, Victoria looked up from her screen. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you still love her, your wife? Jamal sat back. The question didn't surprise him. Every day, but it's different now. Less sharp, more like she's part of me instead of something I lost. How long before it stopped hurting? It never stopped hurting. I just got better at carrying it. Victoria nodded. My father used to say grief is love with nowhere to go. Smart man. He would have liked you. He did like me 10 years ago. I was young and stupid and full of ideas. He listened to every single one. Tell me about them, the ideas. So Jamal did. Talked about thermodynamics and energy efficiency, about systems designed to heal instead of just profit, about the engineering behind medicine, behind hope. Victoria listened, really listened, saw the man he'd been before life broke him, saw the man he could still be. You should go back, she said, to engineering, to MIT. You're wasted fixing air conditioners. I like fixing air conditioners. It's simple, predictable. You're lying. He smiled, maybe. They worked until 2 a.m. Then Jamal stood, stretched. I should check on Destiny. He found his daughter asleep in a bed bigger than his living room. Victoria stood in the doorway, watching him tuck the blanket around her. You're a good father. I'm all she has. I don't get to be anything else. That's not true. You're brilliant, talented. You could be anything. I am something. I'm her dad. That's enough. Victoria felt something shift in her chest, felt walls she'd built crumbling. The moment stretched, dangerous, full of possibility. Jamal stepped back. Good night, Victoria. Good night, Jamal. He left. Victoria stood alone in the hallway, her heart pounding, her hands shaking. On the 20th day, the day before they planned to confront the board, Destiny's school called. Victoria and Jamal were reviewing their presentation, making sure every piece of evidence was solid, every connection clear. Jamal's phone rang. He saw the school's number, answered immediately. "Mr. Carter, this is Principal Harris. We had an incident at recess." Jamal's blood went cold. What kind of incident? A man approached the playground fence. He had a picture of Destiny, called her by name, asked if she wanted to go for a ride. Ms. Johnson intervened immediately and he drove away. But Mr. Carter, this was clearly targeted. "Is Destiny safe?" "She's in my office right now. She's fine, a little shaken, but fine." "I'm coming. Don't let her out of your sight." He hung up, looked at Victoria with eyes full of terror. Someone tried to approach Destiny at school. They knew her name, had her picture. Victoria's face went pale. Charles. Or whoever he's working with. They drove to the school together, Victoria's security team following. When they arrived, Ms. Johnson met them with a note. "He left this on the fence." Jamal took it, block letters, simple, clear. "Stop digging or SHE's next." Below that, a phone number. Victoria took a photo, sent it to Detective Mitchell. Jamal knelt beside Destiny, checked her over. "Did he touch you, baby?" "No, Daddy." Ms. Johnson was right there. "He just showed me a picture and asked my name. I remembered what you said, don't talk to strangers, so I didn't." "You did perfect, so perfect." He pulled her close. Over her head, his eyes met Victoria's. "This ends now." Victoria nodded. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow, we're ending this." That night, Jamal packed bags, everything essential, photos of Sarah, Destiny's favorite things, his Marine Challenge coin, the one constant through every change in his life. Mrs. Rodriguez watched from her porch. "You moving, Mijo?" "Staying with a friend, just until some work stuff settles down, week or two." "You take care of that girl." "Always." They drove to Victoria's building. Destiny bounced in her seat with worry hidden behind brave smiles. "Are we safe now, Daddy?" "We will be. Miss Victoria's helping us." Victoria met them in the lobby with her security team. 3 men, ex-Secret Service, professionals. The head of security, James, was a black man in his 50s, former presidential detail. He knelt to Destiny's level. "Hey there, young lady, I'm James. My job is to make sure nobody bothers you or your dad. That okay?" Destiny nodded. "Are you like a superhero?" "Something like that." Victoria showed them to the guest wing. 3 bedrooms, full kitchen, views of the river that made Destiny gasp despite her fear. "This is bigger than our whole house." "It's yours for as long as you need it," Victoria said. "Both of you." That first night was quiet, tense. Jamal cooked dinner in a kitchen that cost more than his yearly salary. Destiny set the table with plates that were probably older than he was. Victoria sat across from them looking lost in her own home. "I don't usually eat dinner," she admitted. "I work through it." "Not anymore," Jamal said. "Dinner is family time." The word family hung in the air between them. They ate in near silence. Then Destiny spoke up. "Ms. Torre, why don't you have kids?" Victoria set down her fork. "I never had time." "That's sad. You'd be a good mommy. You have kind eyes." "Destiny," Jamal warned. "It's true, she does." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She stood abruptly. "Excuse me." She left. Jamal found her in the living room, staring out at the city. "I'm sorry, she doesn't have a filter." "No, she's right, I am sad." Victoria turned. "I'm 32 years old. I run a company worth $800 million. I have everything anyone could want, and I've never been more alone in my life." "You're not alone now." They looked at each other, the moment stretched, heavy with possibility. From the dining room, Destiny's voice. "Daddy, can I have dessert?" The spell broke. Jamal smiled. "That's my cue." The next morning, Victoria called the emergency board meeting. "I'm presenting new evidence about Charles Whitmore. 8 a.m. tomorrow. Attendance mandatory." Charles arrived early, confident, smiling. He sat at the opposite end of the table from her. "Victoria, what's this about?" "You'll see." The board filtered in. 12 people. Patricia Morrison from HR, David Chen from Operations, others whose names Victoria knew but whose loyalties she questioned. She stood, connected her laptop to the projector. Jamal sat in the back of the room, silent, watching. "3 months ago, my father died. The official cause was a heart attack. I'm here to prove it was murder." The room erupted. Charles's smile vanished. "Victoria, you're grief-stricken. This is inappropriate." "Sit down, Charles." Her voice had steel in it. He sat. She clicked. Financial records appeared. Shell companies, money transfers, $67 million highlighted in red. "Charles Whitmore has embezzled from this company for 3 years. He's hidden the money in offshore accounts. Companies that don't exist. Here are the transactions. Here are the account numbers. Here's the trail." Charles stood. "This is ridiculous. I demand." "Sit down." He sat. Next slide. Emails between Charles and Marcus Duval, discussing the sale of the Alzheimer's drug. "He planned to sell our research to Gentech Pharma for $200 million. Research that belongs to Ashford. Research my father died protecting." The board stared, some shocked, some calculating. Patricia Morrison spoke up. "Where did you get this information?" "My father left evidence. Recordings, files, everything we need to prove what Charles has done." Charles's face had gone pale, but his voice stayed controlled. "You can't prove any of this. Emails can be faked. Records can be altered. You're desperate to blame someone for your father's death. I understand that, but this is." Victoria clicked again. Audio played. Richard Ashford's voice filled the room. "Charles Whitmore is planning to destroy this company from within. He killed the Alzheimer's trials on purpose. He's been embezzling for years. If you're hearing this, I'm dead. And he's the reason why." The room went silent, dead silent. Charles stood again, but this time his composure cracked. "You entitled bitch. You have no idea what you've done. Your father was weak. Charity drugs, diversity hires, caring about people." He practically spat the word. "Business is war. He was too soft to fight it, and so are you." Victoria smiled, cold, hard. "Thank you, Charles, for that confession." She gestured to the door. Detective Sandra Mitchell walked in, 2 uniformed officers behind her. "Charles Whitmore, you're under arrest for embezzlement, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." Charles's face went from red to white. "You can't do this. My lawyers." "We'll meet you at the station," Mitchell said. She cuffed him. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." As they led him away, Charles turned back to Victoria. "This isn't over. You think I'm alone in this. Marcus Duval has resources you can't imagine. Money, power. He's not going to let some girl with daddy issues ruin his plans." Then he was gone. The board sat stunned. Victoria closed her laptop. "I'm suspending all normal operations pending a full audit. Detective Mitchell will be conducting interviews. You're all free to go, but don't leave the state." They left in silence. Only Patricia and Jamal stayed. Patricia spoke first. "That took courage." That took evidence and help. She looked at Jamal, a lot of help. After Patricia left, Victoria and Jamal stood alone in the boardroom. Charles is right, Jamal said. Marcus Duval is still out there. He's the one who probably cut your brake lines, probably sent the man to Destiny's school. Arresting Charles doesn't end this. I know. Victoria pulled out her phone, which is why I'm going to call Marcus and make him an offer he can't refuse. What kind of offer? The kind that gets him to confess, on camera, to everything. Jamal looked at her. That's insane. You have a better idea. He didn't, but he didn't like this one either. If we're doing this, he said, we do it my way, with backup, with safety measures, and Destiny stays here with security. Agreed. Victoria made the call, put it on speaker so Jamal could hear. Marcus Duval answered on the second ring. Ms. Ashford, I heard about Charles, such a shame. Cut the act, Marcus. I know you're behind this, all of it, the sabotage, the attempts on my life, the threat to my family. I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about. I have my father's research, all of it, the complete Alzheimer's formula, and I'm willing to sell. Silence, then, why would you do that? Because Charles is arrested. The board is investigating. I need cash to fight the lawsuits. You need the research. We both get what we want. How much? 50 million, cash, and you leave my family alone. That's quite a sum. It's worth 10 times that, and you know it. Another pause. I'll need to verify you actually have the research. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., the old warehouse on Jefferson Avenue, the one Ashford Pharma used to own. You bring the money, I bring a sample, we make the trade. And if this is a trap, then don't come, but you will, because you've already invested too much to walk away now. She hung up. Jamal looked at her. He'll come, and he'll bring armed men. I know, which is why we need to be smarter and better armed. I'm a Marine, was a Marine, I know how to handle myself. But Victoria, this is dangerous, really dangerous. I know, but it's the only way to end this, to protect Destiny, to protect the company my father built, to stop running and start fighting back. He nodded slowly, then we fight together. They spent the rest of the day planning. Detective Mitchell installed cameras in the warehouse, hidden, streaming to secure servers, to her phone, to the district attorney's office. Victoria prepared fake research documents, enough to look real, enough to buy them time. And Jamal did what he hadn't done in years, went back to being a Marine, checked the warehouse for tactical advantages, identified cover, escape routes, fields of fire. He didn't tell Victoria about the equipment he brought from storage, the gear he'd hoped never to use again. Better she didn't know. Better she could deny it if things went wrong. That night Victoria tried to put Destiny to bed. The little girl clung to her. Are you and Daddy going to be okay tomorrow? We're going to make things safe, so you don't have to be scared anymore. I'm not scared when you're here. You and Daddy make me brave. Victoria's throat tightened. We love you very much, sweetheart. I love you too. Are you gonna stay with us after the bad guys are gone? The question caught her off guard. Would you want that? Destiny nodded seriously. Daddy's happier with you. He smiles more, and you're not sad inside anymore. Get some sleep, baby. Tomorrow everything changes. She found Jamal on the balcony, told him what Destiny had said. She's 7, Jamal said. She doesn't understand how complicated this is. Maybe we're the ones making it complicated. He turned to face her. Victoria, if this goes wrong tomorrow, if something happens to me, Nothing's going to happen. If it does, promise me you'll take care of Destiny. Promise me she'll be safe, that she'll have everything she needs. Education, security, a future. I promise, but nothing's going to happen because we're both coming home. He pulled her close. The first real embrace between them. She fit against him perfectly. I can't lose you, he whispered. I just found you. You won't, we're going to end this, tomorrow together. They stood on the balcony holding each other. The city spread below them. Tomorrow they would face a killer. Tomorrow they would risk everything. But tonight, for just these few hours, they had each other. And somehow, that felt like enough. The warehouse on Jefferson Avenue hadn't been used in 5 years. Ashford Pharmaceuticals had abandoned it when they moved operations downtown. Now it sat empty, forgotten. The kind of place where things happened that nobody wanted to see. Perfect. Jamal Carter arrived 2 hours before the meeting. Alone. He'd left Victoria at the penthouse with Destiny and security. She'd argued. He'd insisted. This part was his, the tactical assessment, the preparation. The things you learned in the Marines and never forgot. He walked the perimeter first, checked for exits, counted 12, 3 main doors, 9 windows, some broken, some boarded up, all potential escape routes or attack vectors. Inside, the space was vast, empty. Their footsteps would echo, voices would carry, good for audio, bad for concealment. He identified cover, support columns, old equipment, a rusted forklift, places to hide if things went bad, and things could always go bad. He found Detective Mitchell's cameras, tiny, hidden in support beams and ceiling fixtures, broadcasting to her, to the DA, to servers that couldn't be erased. Then he set up his own equipment, the things he'd brought from storage, things from his other life, his Marine life. When Victoria arrived at 6:30, everything was ready. She stepped into the warehouse carrying a briefcase, wearing a designer suit that cost more than his monthly rent, looking every inch the billionaire CEO. But her hands shook just slightly, enough that he saw. You okay? No, but I'll pretend to be. He showed her where to stand, center of the space, lit by the few working overhead lights, visible, exposed, the bait in their trap. When Marcus comes in, you do exactly what we discussed. Show him the fake research. Let him talk. Get him to confess. Then I move. And if he shoots me first? He won't. He needs to verify the research is real. That takes time. That gives me an opening. You sound very confident for someone who fixes air conditioners. I wasn't always an HVAC tech. I know, Marine, infantry, you told me. I didn't tell you everything. He pulled back his jacket, showed her what he'd strapped there, tactical gear, the kind that wasn't legal for civilians. Victoria's eyes went wide. Where did you get that? Storage from before. Before what? Before I decided killing people wasn't who I wanted to be. The weight of that hung between them. Jamal, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because Marcus Duval threatened my daughter, and that's a line you don't cross. At 6:50, headlights swept through the broken windows. A black SUV, the same one from the school. Marcus Duval stepped out. Tall, white, late 50s, expensive suit, 2 men with him, young, fit, armed with weapons that weren't concealed. Marcus walked to the center of the warehouse. Victoria stepped into the light. Ms. Ashford, punctual, I appreciate that. Mr. Duval, did you bring the money? Did you bring the research? She held up the briefcase. A sample, the rest is in a safe location. You get it when I get paid. Marcus smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Forgive me if I don't trust you. Charles told me how clever you were, how stubborn like your father. Is that why you killed him? Me, I didn't kill Richard. Charles arranged that. I simply provided the motivation and the poison. One of his men stepped forward, patted Victoria down roughly, looking for wires, weapons, found nothing. She'd left the obvious wire in her jacket pocket where they'd find it and feel smart. The man crushed it under his boot. She's clean, just the decoy wire. Of course she is, Marcus said. Victoria is smart enough to know we'd check, which means the real surveillance is hidden. Cameras, I'd guess, broadcasting to the police. He looked around the warehouse, smiled at the darkness. Hello, Detective Mitchell. I assume you're watching, listening, recording all of this. That's fine, because by the time you arrive, this will be over, and I'll be gone, along with the research that's worth $2 billion. Victoria's stomach dropped. He knew. He'd known from the beginning. Marcus gestured, the research. Victoria handed over the briefcase. Marcus opened it, flipped through pages. His expression changed, went from amused to focused. This is remarkable, your father's work. Yes. He was brilliant, visionary. Shame he refused to be reasonable. We could have made billions together. Instead, he chose principles over profit. Such a waste. Why are you telling me this? Because you're not leaving here alive, Victoria. Neither is whoever you have hiding in the shadows. Yes, I know someone's here. Former Marine, if Charles's intelligence was correct. Your HVAC technician. The one who saved you from the lake. How romantic. He pulled a gun, pointed it at Victoria. Come out, Mr. Carter, or I shoot her right now. Silence. Then Jamal stepped from behind a support column, hands visible, empty. Marcus laughed. The maintenance man, how quaint. Is this your knight in shining armor, Victoria, a janitor? Engineer, Jamal said quietly. MIT, Marine Corps, but you wouldn't know about that. You didn't earn your position, you bought it. Marcus's smile faded. Big words from a small man. I'm big enough. One of Marcus's men moved toward Jamal, fast, trained. What happened next happened in 3 seconds. Jamal moved, not like an engineer, not like an HVAC tech, like someone who'd been trained to kill efficiently and without hesitation. He closed the distance, grabbed the man's gun hand, twisted. The radius bone broke with an audible crack. The gun clattered to the floor. Jamal's elbow struck the man's temple. He dropped. The second man drew his weapon. Jamal was already moving. Used the first man's body as a shield, threw him at the second man. They tangled, went down. Jamal was on them, 2 strikes, precise, brutal. Both men stopped moving. 5 seconds total, 2 armed men neutralized. Marcus stared. Who are you? Someone you underestimated. Marcus pointed his gun at Victoria. I'll still kill her. No, you won't, because you're being live streamed right now, not to the police, to the internet, to 47,000 people watching in real time. Marcus's face went white. What? Victoria smiled. Surprise, my assistant Rachel is streaming this through the company's social media. Every word you said, every confession, broadcast live, to news stations, to the FBI, to 2 million employees and investors. You're done, Marcus. Red and blue lights flooded the warehouse, not from police cars, from spotlights. Detective Mitchell's team had been waiting, recording, building the case. Mitchell's voice over a megaphone. Marcus Duval, drop your weapon. You're under arrest for murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, and corporate espionage. Marcus looked around, trapped, caught, finished. But he didn't drop the gun, kept it pointed at Victoria. If I'm going down, she's coming with me. Jamal moved, pure instinct, pure training, covered the distance between them in 2 steps. His hand caught Marcus's wrist, redirected the barrel as it fired. The bullet went wide, shattered a window. Jamal twisted, Marcus screamed. The gun fell, Jamal swept his legs. Marcus went down hard, face first, didn't move. Police swarmed in, cuffed Marcus and his men, read them their rights. The words echoed in the vast space. Detective Mitchell walked up to Victoria and Jamal. "That was the stupidest, bravest thing I've ever seen. You're both insane." "Did we get it all?" Victoria asked. "Every word, confession to murder, conspiracy, attempted murder. And yes, the live stream worked. 2.3 million views so far," he confessed in front of the world. "He's going to prison for life." Victoria's legs gave out. Jamal caught her, held her up. She was shaking, adrenaline draining away, leaving her hollow. "It's over," he said. "It's really over." They stood in the warehouse and watched Marcus Duval being led away in handcuffs. Watched justice finally catching up to the men who thought they were above it. Victoria leaned against Jamal, let herself be held. For the first time in 3 months since her father died, she felt safe. The live stream had worked better than they'd hoped. By the time they left the warehouse, it had been viewed 4 million times. The news had picked it up. Social media exploded. Billionaire CEO arrested in murder plot. Pharmaceutical exec confesses live. The headlines wrote themselves. They drove back to the penthouse in silence, exhausted, relieved, alive. Destiny was still awake when they arrived. She'd watched the live stream with Rachel, saw her father take down 2 armed men, saw Victoria stand up to the man who'd threatened them all. She ran to them. "Did you win?" "We won, baby," Jamal said. "The bad guys are going to jail. Forever. Forever." She hugged them both. "I knew you would because you're heroes. We're just regular people who did what needed doing. That's what heroes are, Daddy." That night after Destiny finally fell asleep, Victoria and Jamal sat on the balcony. The city spread below them, peaceful, quiet, safe. "What happens now?" Victoria asked. "I don't know. I haven't thought past surviving today." "Think past it now. What do you want?" Jamal was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. "I want to go back to MIT, finish my PhD, work in research again, real research, the kind that helps people, the kind your father believed in." "Done, I'll fund it." "I don't want your money." "It's not my money. It's Ashford Pharmaceuticals' money. We're creating a research fellowship, the Sarah Carter Memorial Fellowship, for engineers who want to work in medical technology. Full funding, living stipend, everything you need. You'll be the first recipient." Jamal's eyes filled with tears. "You do that?" "I'd do anything for you, for Destiny, for us." He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. "I want something else too." "What?" "You, not just now, not just while this is exciting and dangerous and new. I want you forever. I want Destiny to have a mother who's here, who's present, who chooses her. I want us to be a real family." Victoria's breath caught. "Jamal, we've only known each other 3 weeks." "I know, but when you've almost died twice, you stop caring about timelines. You care about what's real, and this is real. You know it is." She did know. Had known since that first night when he'd walked into her office with tools and tattoos, and eyes that saw straight through her walls. "Yes." "Yes, what?" "Yes to all of it. To you, to Destiny, to forever, yes." He kissed her, deep, certain, a promise made without words. They sat on the balcony until dawn, talking about the future. about research and family and a life built on something more than survival. 2 weeks later, Jamal woke up in the guest wing of Victoria's penthouse. Destiny was already awake, sitting at the small kitchen table they'd set up, drawing. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, baby. What you drawing?" She held it up, 3 stick figures, one tall man, one woman, one little girl holding both their hands, hearts floating above them. "It's us, our family." His throat tightened. "It's beautiful. I want to give it to Miss Torre for when she asks." "Asks what?" "If I want her to be my real mama, not just my friend, my mama." Jamal knelt beside his daughter. "Baby, Miss Victoria and I have been talking about the future, about us. How would you feel if she became part of our family, officially?" Destiny's eyes went wide. "Like forever." "Like forever." "Yes," she jumped up. "Can we ask her today, please? How about we do it together, you and me, as a team?" They planned it carefully. Destiny insisted on fancy dresses and candles and music. Jamal cooked Victoria's favorite meal. They set the table with the good plates, made everything perfect. When Victoria came home from the office that evening, she found the penthouse transformed. "What's all this?" Destiny appeared in her best purple dress. "It's a special dinner. Come sit." They ate together, talked about Victoria's day, about Destiny's upcoming science project, about Jamal's first acceptance letter from MIT's PhD program. After dessert, Destiny stood up. "Ms. Torre, we have something to ask you." "We do." Jamal stood too, pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside a ring, simple, elegant, perfect. And beside it a smaller box, with a necklace, a silver heart on a delicate chain. "Victoria Ashford," Jamal said. "3 weeks ago you saved my life by giving me a reason to live again. You saved Destiny by giving her security and love. You saved us both by being exactly who you are. Brilliant, stubborn, kind, beautiful, and not sad inside anymore." Destiny chimed in. "We want to know if you'll marry us, both of us, be part of our family forever." Victoria looked at them. This impossible man and his perfect daughter, this family she'd stumbled into during a blizzard, this life she never knew she wanted. "Yes, God, yes to both of you, forever." Jamal slid the ring on her finger. Destiny put the necklace around her neck. "Now you're my real mama," Destiny said, "forever." Victoria pulled them both into a hug. They stood there in the dining room holding each other. A family, real and whole and chosen. The trial took 4 months. Marcus Duval and Charles Whitmore were both convicted. 25 years for Charles, life without parole for Marcus. The evidence was overwhelming. The live stream alone would have been enough, but they had everything: financial records, communications, Richard's voice from the grave, the confession broadcast to millions. During those 4 months, life shifted into something new. Jamal enrolled at MIT's PhD program, remote classes while he stayed in Detroit with his family. His new family. Victoria created the Sarah Carter Memorial Fellowship, established a whole department focused on medical engineering. The pediatric cancer drug went back into production. Clinical trials showed even better results than expected. FDA fast-track approval. Kids were getting treatment. Kids were surviving. Destiny transferred to a private school near the penthouse. Made friends. Thrived. Stopped having nightmares about men in black SUVs. Victoria and Jamal got married in a small ceremony. Just family. Rachel and her kids. Detective Mitchell and her wife. Mrs. Rodriguez from the old neighborhood. Patricia Morrison from the board. The people who'd helped them survive. Destiny was flower girl. wore a white dress with purple flowers, held both their hands as they said their vows. Victoria legally adopted Destiny 3 weeks after the wedding. The paperwork was just formality. Destiny had been her daughter from the moment she'd said yes to forever. They moved out of the penthouse, found a real house in Bloomfield Hills, with a yard, a swing set, a garden where Destiny planted vegetables with her new mama. Victoria learned to cook, badly at first, then better. Jamal taught her. They worked side by side in their kitchen, building meals, building a life. 6 months later, the Carter Ashford Medical Research Center opened its doors on a bright October morning. The building was beautiful, state-of-the-art, solar panels on the roof, labs equipped with the latest technology, a childcare center on the first floor so researchers with kids could work without worry. Victoria stood at the podium in front of 800 people, researchers, doctors, investors, press, her family in the front row, Jamal in his best suit, Destiny in her favorite dress, both beaming. "My father built Ashford Pharmaceuticals on a simple principle," Victoria said. "Science in service of humanity, not profit in service of shareholders. Humanity. He believed that medicine should heal, not just make money. That research should solve problems, not just generate returns." She paused, looked at Jamal, her husband, her partner, the man who'd pulled her from a frozen lake and somehow never let go. "6 months ago, I almost lost everything. My company, my life, my future. But in almost losing everything, I found what my father had been trying to teach me all along, that the work matters less than who you're doing it with. That success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. That family, real family, is worth more than all the quarterly earnings in the world." She gestured to Jamal. "Dr. Jamal Carter heads our new research division. He's developing thermal management systems that will revolutionize drug storage in developing countries. Work that will save millions of lives. Work that proves you can do well by doing good. Work that honors both our fathers, Richard Ashford and every Marine who served with honor." Applause filled the auditorium. "We're also announcing the full FDA approval of our pediatric cancer drug. Treatment begins next month for children across the country, free of charge for families who can't afford it, funded by the Ashford Foundation, in memory of Sarah Carter, and all the others we couldn't save but won't forget." More applause, louder, people standing. "My father once told me that the best legacy isn't what you build, it's what you inspire others to build after you're gone. This center is his legacy. This work is his dream, and I promise to honor it every day, with my family beside me, with people I trust, with the knowledge that we're not just building a company, we're building hope." She stepped down from the podium. Jamal met her at the stairs, kissed her. Destiny squeezed between them, jumping with excitement. "You were amazing, Mama." The word still made Victoria's heart skip. Mama, her daughter, her family, hers. That evening they had dinner at their house. Around the table sat their extended family, Rachel and her kids, Detective Mitchell and her wife, Mrs. Rodriguez, Patricia Morrison, James from security, Dr. Freeman, the therapist who'd helped them all process the trauma, all the people who'd helped them survive the storm. Destiny stood up and clinked her glass with a spoon. "I want to make a toast." Everyone quieted, looked at the 8-year-old who'd gotten so much braver in 6 months. "6 months ago I was scared a lot. My daddy was sad. Mama Victoria was lonely. But then we found each other, in a blizzard, and now we're not scared or sad or lonely anymore. We're a family, and families are magic." She raised her juice box. "To magic." "To magic," everyone chorused. Victoria looked around the table, at these people who'd become her family, at the life she'd built from the ruins of almost dying, at the future spread before her like an open road. After everyone left, after Destiny was tucked in bed, Victoria and Jamal stood in their backyard. Snow was falling. The first snow since that night 6 months ago. The night everything changed. "You know what's funny?" Victoria said. "Marcus and Charles tried to destroy everything my father built. Instead, they made it stronger. We're helping more people now than we ever did before." "That's the thing about trying to break good people," Jamal said. "Sometimes you just make them better. And bring them together." "That too." Destiny appeared at the back door in her pajamas. "It's snowing." "So it is, baby. Can we go outside and catch snowflakes, like we used to at the old house?" Victoria and Jamal looked at each other, smiled. "Yes," they said together. They bundled up, went out into the backyard, stood in the falling snow with their faces turned toward the sky, catching flakes on their tongues, laughing together. The storm that had nearly killed Victoria had brought them all together, had changed 3 separate lives into one shared story, had turned loneliness and grief and fear into love and hope and family. Jamal pulled both his girls close, Destiny and Victoria, his past and his future, his reason for diving into frozen water and his reason for climbing out again. "I love you both so much." "We love you too, Daddy." "We love you too, husband." They stood in the snow and let it cover them, let it wash away the last remnants of who they'd been before, the sad CEO, the broken engineer, the scared little girl. Now they were something new, something better, something whole. A family. The snow fell faster. The world grew quiet. Inside the house, warmth waited, food, safety, home. But for now, they stood in the storm together, not running from it, not fearing it, just being in it, together. Because storms don't last forever, but the families they create do. Victoria thought about that night 6 months ago, the water rising, the cold, the certainty of death, then hands pulling her from darkness, brown eyes steady in the chaos, a voice that said stay calm. She'd been drowning, and Jamal had saved her, not just from the water, from the life she'd been living, the empty penthouse, the lonely dinners, the success that felt like failure. He'd saved her by showing her what mattered: family, love, purpose beyond profit. And she'd saved him too, from the small life he'd built out of grief, from hiding his brilliance, from believing his best days were behind him. They'd saved each other, the way families do. "Jamal," Victoria said quietly. "Yeah. Thank you." "For what?" "For diving into that frozen lake, for not giving up on me, for letting me be Destiny's mom, for building this life with me, for everything." He pulled her closer. "You saved me first, that day in the office. When you looked at me and saw who I used to be, who I could still be, you gave me my life back, my purpose, my future. We saved each other." "Yeah, we did." The snow fell around them. Destiny reached up, trying to catch the biggest flake, missing, trying again, laughing when she finally caught one. "Look, I got one." "That's my girl," Jamal and Victoria said at the same time, then looked at each other, smiled at the synchronicity. Our girl, not his, not hers, ours. They stood in their backyard, in their city, in their life, the life they'd built from almost dying, the life they'd chosen, together. And somewhere in whatever place the dead go to watch the living, Richard Ashford smiled. His daughter had found what he'd always wanted for her, not success, not wealth, not power. Family, real family, the kind you choose, the kind that chooses you back. And somewhere else in that same place, Sarah Carter smiled too. Her daughter was safe, Her husband was happy. The future she'd wanted for them was happening, just with someone else holding Jamal's hand. Someone who loved destiny like Sarah would have. Someone who understood that being a mother wasn't about biology. It was about showing up, being present, choosing love every single day. The snow fell faster. The city lights blurred. The world became soft and quiet and perfect. "We should go inside," Victoria said, "before Destiny catches cold." "5 more minutes," Destiny begged, "please." "5 more minutes," Jamal agreed. So they stood there, in the snow, in the magic, in the moment. Because some moments you don't rush. Some moments you hold onto. Some moments become the memories you carry forever. This was one of those moments. The storm had stopped, but the love remained. And that was everything.